Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Anthony Moniello, CEO of Next Century Spirits and Bear Fight Whiskey. I'm here with my buddy Gabriel Macht. Gabriel, how are you today, bud?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm
You
doing great.
okay?
I'm talking about Bear Fight. No better day than
Ye-
talking about Bear Fight. If you guys haven't heard, we're doing a little crowd fund to raise some money into Bear Fight because we're accelerating this beautiful whiskey brand of ours into a big growth stratosphere. And we've received a lot of questions because it's something really unique. Not a lot of people do this out in the market. It's the first time for us as well. So we wanted to get together, take some time, and answer some of those questions for all of you. So we're going to go through a list of questions we've received. But also, if you have any questions, please throw it in the chat or any other vehicle where you're watching this through, and we'll make sure that our team gets back to you as soon as possible. If not, Gabriel or myself getting back to you quickly.
Oh, I'm going to be giving direct messages all night long. I'm going to be at my computer and, you can just holler and I will respond immediately. I'm looking at about 10,000 messages I'm going to respond to. And no, I am not
Hey,
responding to any of you. No, I'm kidding.
guys, I just want everyone to know he loves questions about Harvey. So if you start asking questions about Harvey, he'll definitely answer verified questions, right? Is that the
Exactly.
rule?
That's
Okay.
it.
Yeah. All right. So the first question we got, we're going to kick it off.
I got a question before you even start. What
Oh,
made you start Bear Fight Whiskey?
I was definitely going to make sure the first question was about you, Gabriel, not me. So what made us start Bear Fight Whiskey? It's actually a really cool story. Um, we took over this company, Next Century Spirits. It was this B2B company. We were making brands for other people, and we were making beautiful brands for other people. And while I'm sworn by NDAs not to talk about them, I was starting to get, a little jealous of all these beautiful brands we were making for other people, but we couldn't talk about it. We couldn't share the stories. We couldn't really be the owners and the people that are telling the stories of these brands. And so we set out to make what we thought would be the best whiskey we could possibly make. And we didn't know what that meant, right? We didn't set a marker that it was going to be better than this brand or that brand. We just wanted to make the best damn whiskey we could. And we saw the American single malt category was growing, and we were like, okay, well, we can do this category. This is a category where we can win in. And so we set out a challenge. It was me, my master distiller, and a few folks on our marketing team. We started talking about how do we make this really amazing American single malt. And I had this vision that I wanted it to be this love baby, if you will, between a bourbon and a scotch. I wanted those nice sweet notes on the front where you get the sherry hits of our current American single malt, a little bit of peat on the back, but not be so harsh like scotches are, right? Some people find scotch is so unapproachable. So I wanted to still finish smooth. And we created Bear Fight, and we loved the whiskey so much that we decided to send it to a bunch of shows. Um, we didn't have a label. We didn't actually have a name at the time. We just wanted to see if we actually made good whiskey that people thought would be good. Um, our master blender thought we'd get crushed in these shows. He was really just great at creating brands, but just thought the flavor profiles wouldn't be what everyone was looking for. And so when he labeled our submission, he labeled it bear fight because he thought we were going into a bear fight. Truly, like that we were going to get mauled in these competitions. And what happened was the exact opposite. We won 96 points double gold at the New York International Spirits Competition, 95 points double gold at the New York San Francisco Spirits Competition. We're then rated the top single malt 12 years or younger at the London International Spirits Competition. And then we started getting picked up by media. So we were named top 20 whiskey in the world by Forbes. And I'll never forget the article, Gabriel. It was Bear Fight Whiskey. Location unknown, picture unavailable, price unknown. And the little blurb about the whiskey is, we don't know if this is a real brand, but it's damn good whiskey. If you can find it, you should buy it. That's when we knew we had something, and that was kind of how Bear Fight was made. So it was our first innovation. It will forever be so important to us because it was our first innovation. And it was predicated on belief in ourselves and also the ability to make a little bit of fun of ourselves because the name Bear Fight truly came out of the fact that we didn't know if we had any business being in these competitions, and obviously the whiskey delivered big for us.
That's fascinating. I love that I've been with you guys now for 2 or 3 years, 2 years, and I've never heard that story. That's
I try not
amazing.
to share that story that much because I have to be a professional. Like, oh no, we knew this would be a home run. We had no clue. We had no clue. Yeah. All right, so I have to ask you a hard question because you took one on me. What made you want to join us? I mean, we're kind of crazy dudes. We made up some whiskey and all this sort of stuff. What made you work with us here at Barefoot?
Well, if I go back, well, I've been, a long time whiskey drinker. I mean, I started, when I was 21 in New York, when I was pounding the pavement and coming back with, you know, all the fails I had from auditioning in New
You
York.
needed whiskey to get through that, Gabriel? Is that
No, 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 no. I didn't drink whiskey to get through all of that,
okay?
but it was a, once a week, once every, few days, maybe I'd have a late night drink with a friend of mine who was a doctor. So,
Mhm.
I thought that this was, not irresponsible. Um, and then, actually, I found out that my grandfather was a whiskey drinker. Um, he loved his whiskey. And then, look, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that, when I played that character that people say his name was Harvey Specter. He was a whiskey drinker. So, and, he was one of those guys who was the top, he was drinking the top shelf whiskey, and it became sort of synonymous with his late nights and, the challenges that he had throughout his days. He was able to celebrate and or dig into some of those emotional moments, and I think it became part of the character. And so when Suits ended, I was just looking for some opportunities, and I've always felt like it would be fun and creative and interesting to uh, be a part of something in an entrepreneurial way. And from the creative side, coming from a place where it made sense in that the character that I was sort of best known for was a whiskey drinker, but it also was very different in that it's a very traditional, Harvey's a very traditional sort of like he was more of a conservative heritage drinker in that, his drink of choice was one of those brands. But coming into this, I was feeling like this is more of who I am. And um, this idea of a bear fight, I mean, I think that's also what drew me in, being in a startup, locking arms with some creative young voices and this energy. And I thought, you know what? This could be fun. This could be a wild ride. And when we started working together, and we did link arms and we got sort of this creative team together. It became very inspiring. It's from a collaborative point of view because I was able to not just put the Harvey Specter stamp on it, but my own stamp, my own creative narrative, um, which which was part of what a bear fight is. And so the metaphor of the bear fight, the actual metaphor of a bear fight, like, yes, come on, let's be serious. If I'm caught in a forest with a real bear, I think we all know what's going to happen. But that metaphor and that idea that, when we were throwing around ideas of like, what is bear fight? What is bear fight? What is bear fight? What is your bear fight? It became clear that everyone's got a bear fight. The brand had the bear fight going into it of not knowing what his name was, that unknown. I didn't know what I was doing after Suits. I was like sort of like dabbling in different entrepreneurial like brand ambassador thing, spokesperson. But then, when I was asked to link arms with you guys and become partners, it was very inspiring to figure, okay, so like, what's my bear fight? I mean, everybody's got a bear fight at every level of a career or, your growth as a person. Every human I know has their own challenges, whether they're big or small. And I think that's what really drew me was how can we make this idea resonate with the modern young drinker.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that was sort of the seed that got me.
And I think that leads into that creative portion. You said something about even Harvey was drinking these heritage brands. And a part of what we were always trying to focus on is how do we create new heritage? But heritage has to start somewhere, right? So why are we so obsessed with heritage starting in the 1700s or 1800s or with someone's great great grandfather's recipe? Why can't it start with us? And I know we talked about that in our first meeting, and um, you kind of lit up because you're like, oh, we have a blank canvas. I remember kind of this in the meeting, and then we talked about the bear fight. It could be as simple as getting your kids down to sleep while your wife's out of town, which was my bear fight just last night. Um, or something much bigger as what do I do next now? I had this great show with Suits that had two lives that were separately uniquely amazing. Now what? Right? So I always found that unique. And as we look at creative vision, Gabriel, is there anything else you're looking to get out of this? Because a lot of people ask me, well, how are you guys going to take Bear Fight to the next level creatively? And I keep saying, we have a different idea every day. It's just which ones we're going to bring to life. So any other commentary on just the creative vision forward, as there's been a lot of questions about that.
Well, I think we're actually really at the very beginning still of this idea of what's your bear fight. I mean, like we could go into a million different categories of life, whether it's, the big personal growth bear fights of like how do I want to show up responsibly? How do I want to show up with integrity and add value? And how can I celebrate that win when I do show up? Um, or the little ones, and we've talked about this a million times, like it's putting your kids to sleep, or it's, having a clean kitchen to wake up to, oh God, I don't want to do the dishes right now, but that's part of the thing. It's like, I'm going to do all these dishes so I can wake up tomorrow morning with a clean kitchen, and those are these little wins. Oh, you know what? I did the dishes. Yeah, I didn't want to, and I wanted to procrastinate. I wanted to not do it, but I went for it and I did it, right? Or it could be travel. You're planning a vacation. Yes, we can call the travel agent and have them line everything up, or we can try and think outside the box and figure out what is that place that not every tourist is going to go to, and like just trying to. I think the idea is really like how do we think outside the box and how do we celebrate those wins, or really just like figure out what it is that's important to us that we're either challenged by or resonates with us, and how can we make that story. That's where
Yeah.
the story to me is still very exciting, and to get people talking about what their bear fight is. I want to see what R753 is actually dealing with. I want to see, and whether it's big or small, or I want to see what the challenges are of people challenging each other. Oh, my bear fight's bigger than your bear fight. I don't know if there's, competition there. That could be something. But I think at the heart of this, I think everyone's got one. And I think that people can talk about their business, people can talk about their relationships, people can talk about their kids, they can talk about, you know, many different things. But I think what I come back to is the spirit of the brand is something that has a little bit more than just, I don't know, just a name of some other, I don't know,
Some other whiskey with some story.
Wally's whiskey. I mean, like I don't,
Yeah.
I just think that there's some a theme behind it. Now, I say all that, and I also say like if you don't want to go down that narrative, and you don't want to think about the challenges of life, or you don't want to deal with what is potentially really meaningful to you, then have a drink because it tastes great. I mean, like
Well,
don't
it's
even think
funny.
about all
We
that
had a
stuff.
question that was what makes our whiskey different? What makes Bear Fight different from all other whiskeys? And I said, well, it could be as layered, Gabriel. It could be as layered as we're talking about because we use Bear Fight even around the office. We go, man, my Bear Fight today is X. I mean, it's how we talk in the office. But we distill it down to it's damn good whiskey at a good price. Um, Someone asked me the other day, how do I sum up our company in one word, in one sentence, in one kind of one liner? I say, It's amazing quality at an affordable price. And someone said cheap. I said, no, no, I mean, it's a $40 bottle of whiskey. That's not cheap. I don't spend other people's money. It's not cheap. Um, but at the same time, it isn't, you don't have to wait until you, get the big promotion or, get the big pension at the end of a 25-year career or whatever to celebrate. It's about celebrating the moments in between. And so when people ask me, and it was one of the questions we got a ton, and that's why I'm reading this one off, what makes your whiskey different? Um, it is supposed to be almost an everyday luxury that you can celebrate with. We talked about the awards we've won, and it's amazing liquid. I mean, it's great damn whiskey, no matter how you think about it. And I could tell you about the different casks and the different finishes and all that sort of stuff, but that's not what makes us different. It's truly that affordable luxury to celebrate any day, anywhere, anytime, for any reason. Um, so I use that as a segue before the next question's hard.
Well,
Um,
wait, you know what? I would just
this
say
one,
one thing before you jump
thank
into the
you.
next question. The American single malt has an apple, there's a sweetness about it. And they do say that an apple a day keeps the doctors away. So there's something that drew me to that. I tell
Is
you
that what
that.
your doctor friend who you started your
Yes,
activity? That's what he
exactly.
said. I knew there
That's
was
right.
all good stories come back around. Yeah, that's good. When you were saying the bear fights can be big or small, I was like, what? I have a reason to drink now a couple times a day. My wife probably wouldn't be too happy about that. Um, I get a lot of questions, Gabriel, and I think you and I will have fun answering this. I'll start with it, but um, why are we letting everyone invest? And I've heard people say regular fans and regular people, and I hate that tone. And I had that in a lot of questions we got. Um, we're the people who consume the brands. We're the people who make the brand what they are. We're the reason that these brands are on shelves. Our fans, and really your fans, but also our next century growing company, we wanted to actually let everyone in to be an owner, really a part of something we're building because we're building something for you as the fan, as the consumer. It's almost so simple. I don't know why it hasn't been done before at this scale or why we hadn't done it before. Um, and so when I get asked that question, Bear Fight's always been about trying to be disruptive in the category, new heritage, disruptive price point, really great whiskey at a great price. Why not invite everyone that we hope is consuming the brand as a part of the brand and as ambassador of the brand to be an investor and owner in the brand? So that's truly why we set on to do this. And that question, I've had people, challenge me on that. I said, look, what brand out there authentically said, come be a part of our brand? They spent a lot of money, big whiskey brands, and I was a part of it. I have a big history in big alcohol. I mean, I've built big brands. Um, we would spend a lot of money at big brands creating ambassadors and creating relationships with gatekeepers and partners and consumers, et cetera. We cared about our consumers, but we spent money to go do that. This is saying, help be a part of our journey, inside out. Come see our guts. People thought we were crazy, just even showing some of our financials. Like, no, come on, really see our challenges, see our journey. I thought that made us more authentic. I thought that allowed us to um, retrench as, hey, this is our new heritage. I like to always say, like, this is our story. This is going to be a part of our pillar for a long time. So that's why we did it. It's not, there's nothing regular about this to me. This is about true connection with consumer. And so that's why we did it amongst a lot of debate. And Gabriel, you were part of the debate too. I mean, I know this wasn't an easy decision for any of us, but we just felt strongly to that poll.
I feel like it's community driven. I think it's whiskey for the people.
Hmm. Better said than me. Even better. Look at that. Should have kicked you that first. Um, so yeah, that's our answer to that question. And I've gotten that one a lot. And I'm excited about that portion of this race. I got a few other questions here I'm going to run through. Um, what are some of Bear Fight's biggest successes so far? We had a great 2025. I think, that's not some of that data you guys don't get to see when you look into the data room. So I want to spend some time on it. Um, first, we maintain, we are a holistic whiskey brand. We have an American single malt and a bourbon that is finished in Reposado cask, Kentucky straight bourbon. We also launched a second bourbon this year, Orchard and Vine, which was a limited time offer that has already sold out. Did really great in and out of the stores. But we ended the year as a top
It's
five
already sold out.
American.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah,
It,
yeah. I think there's about 7 bottles left that can be bought online because I bought two and was told there was limited inventory, so I just checked. It is limited. About 7 bottles left online. Um, Top five American single malt. So we finished the year still a top single malt in the country. That's really something we're extremely proud of. The other four brands that are ahead of us are really, really big brands with really, really big budgets. So we'll look to keep that status as a top five American single malt. We grew up 45%, so our sales were up 45% this year in a very interesting and challenged whiskey market. We continue to grow and grow organically. And our distribution grew at 57%. What does that mean? It means you can go find our brand in more places. Um, Getting distribution is probably the hardest thing in this entire industry. So, growing at 57%, it was something we're super proud of. I always say when I have a forum, so I have to say it now, if you're listening and you want Bear Fight and it's not at your local liquor store, ask for it, they'll bring it in. And that's one more point of distribution. That's how you grow. So demand grows brands. So very excited about that. And then where I'd love Gabriel to talk a little bit, we also did some pretty cool things from a marketing front. Um, like, I don't know, being named the number one Super Bowl ad in the New York Times, despite not having a Super Bowl commercial. That's pretty good. I don't know. Gabriel, I don't know if you have anything to say about that. You happen to star in that ad, might be something you're proud of.
I mean, yeah, look, I was extremely proud of that ad. I think that was, I don't know anybody who's watched that ad who hasn't walked away really laughing out loud. And that's, I think, the mark of, getting the message out there. I mean, maybe it's just people want to see someone kick the shit out of me
I mean,
and just
you got your butt whooped. You did. You got punched in the face. I mean, you got,
look. I mean, it was a lot of fun. We had a great director, the writers, and we all collaborated on that piece. It's a great commercial. I think the story of how, you know, we did put the commercial out there within the week of Super Bowl,
yeah.
but obviously, we're a startup and we didn't have $7 million for 30 seconds to put
And it was
it
about a
on.
minute and a half spot. So we really need around 21 million
So you
just.
needed 21 million to get it up there. That's insane. That's crazy. Um, yeah, no, I mean, like, now I don't know if we want to tell this story, but I'll share this story in case we decide we want to. Um, it was a cool. There was a kind of a very interesting moment that I saw as far as the creative and the getting our voice out there, which was we had some uh, creative consultants and the marketing team that had been in this space before. They've had a track record of getting Super Bowl commercials out there. I think, in the advertising world, if you've got a great commercial, you want to sort of reveal it in that space of, the week and a half
Of
before
course.
Super Bowl. And it was a lot of fun to see what was going to happen with it. Now we knew we had a great commercial because, I mean, I honestly, whoever I showed it to walked away going, "That is a great commercial."
Absolutely. Same.
Um, and here's the truth of it was this: that like I woke up on Sunday morning and I looked at the New York Times and I was like, "Oh, here's the 25 best Super Bowl commercials," and we weren't up there. And I was like, "Ah." Oh, that's too bad. The guy, the reviewer didn't come across his desk, whatever. So I called our social media guy and I said, you know what? It'd be funny if you could just send them a link of the commercial and just, who knows, see what happens, right? So I sent him an email. I didn't even hear back from him saying, yeah, that's a great idea or whatever. I just went out on my day and I went to brunch and I came back around 2 o'clock And when I looked on my New York Times app, it came up and I was like, oh, I wonder, I just refreshed it. And it was like, the one commercial that's probably not on the Super Bowl that's my favorite commercial is the bear fight whiskey ad. And I was like, holy shit, that's amazing. This is
Exactly.
amazing. Like, how did that happen? And it didn't come from, I mean, the truth is it didn't come from my handle. I don't know what it means if somebody says, "Oh, this is the guy from Suits. He sent me something." I didn't even send it to him. It came from somebody that was
Someone
like
on the team. Yeah.
it was someone on the team, but it wasn't really,
Yeah.
from
No.
bearfightwhiskey.com, or it wasn't like at Bearfight Whiskey. So it was really that the narrative landed. It was the actual piece that landed. So I was like, wow, that's amazing that it had that impact. Um, and so that's the story. I mean, it turned out that it really worked for
Yeah, and that
everyone, I
and
think.
that's in that spot, along with some of the media of you joining the brand, led to over 50 billion media impressions, which is really incredible. I mean, I've worked on brands with massive budgets, doing all sorts of huge things. That is above and beyond any goal you set for yourself at the beginning of the year. And trust me, that wasn't our goal. We far outshot our goal when it came to impressions. And I think it speaks to it. It resonated, Gabriel, and frankly, it was. If you haven't seen the spot, you should go see it. I mean, it's an awesome spot. Um, and a star was born that day, Gabriel.
Frank the Bear.
The star was born.
He really was, yes. And I'm sure that when they make a remake to A Star is Born, there's been like four of them, the last one with Bradley. It's gonna be me and Frank. It's gonna be like
Absolutely.
30 years from now. We just don't know who's gonna end where the story ends. It's not gonna be me. But yeah, you know what? Frank actually is kind of this revelation. I mean, he's sort of this everyman, well, every bear. He's really
Every
an
bear.
every bear.
Yeah, every bear.
And the story of Frank resonates. I mean, he is wildly nuanced in so many different ways. And there's just this version of him that is he's really just really he's a bear that's got problems and challenges just like every one of us, which is kind of weird. I mean, you'd think he was like an actor in a bear suit, but he's actually a bear. So that's like what's like constantly, challenging my reality, actually. So working with this bear that speaks English just kind of blows my mind. Anyway, I've been thinking about our campaign that's coming up, and we've done a
Yes.
lot of really fun stuff with him, and we go back to story. It really does. Well, I don't know. There's a lot in store for Frank this year.
Star is born. And that kind of leads to where's whiskey going? We get asked a lot, and I had a myriad of questions about the whiskey industry. So I'm going to take that a second to talk about it and why I think we'll shine through. Where's whiskey going in the next 5 to 10 years? What's going on in the industry? I like to see everybody step back, and this is just a quick piece of education so you can understand where we're going forward. Um, Alcohol industry has more than tripled since 2000. Okay. And that's population growth, it's consumption habits, it's different things across the board. And during the pandemic, there was a really sharp increase that juiced a big part of that number. And why? People were consuming at home, not a lot to do, a lot of spending that was going to travel and other things went into different ways to, you know, the cooking industry went up and the food industry, I mean, a lot of different things at home, entertainment went up. And accelerated a lot of trends. I mean, a lot of good things came out of that. But now we're going through a little course correction, right? And right now, the alcohol industry is experiencing its first decline time in 25 years. Um, to me, if you look at it, the category, the whiskey category and the alcohol industry have been tied pretty close together over those 25 years, and it's been growing at roughly 5 to 7% annually. Well, during the pandemic, it was up over 20% for a couple of years in a row. We're seeing a course correction. this is not a structural issue. It's more of a correcting what was probably um, a bubble that needed to be burst, or else there would have been a long-term negative impact in the industry. And so um, we're kind of coming across a time where there's an overcorrection in the marketplace. Some of that overinflated growth is now normalizing. The straight line trend growth is still 5 to 7% annually if you look at it from a 25-year outlook. Um, and while I believe we'll have another year or two where data across the industry and across the whiskey category isn't going to be super attractive, the way Bear Fight can continue to grow is one, our availability is very small. We are still in less than 1% of the outlets available in the US. So if you think about it, we don't need to worry about industry trends and growth. We have plenty of growth runway right in front of us, whether it's sourcing from other people on the shelf or other brands on the shelf, or just introducing ourselves to new consumers. Um, and we believe younger consumers who are very promiscuous in their offerings, they are not looking to drink what their grandfather and father drank. They're looking to explore and learn their own things out in the marketplace. And we can fulfill that void, right? We can be a brand that's discoverable and ownable and becomes part of their decision set. And so that's why Bear Fight always has these secondary finishes, right? Our American Single has the peat and the sherry. Our Kentucky Straight Bourbon is really highlighted by being finished in Reposado barrels. Our Orchard and Vine LTO in those Calvados and port finishes is really unique and desirable. And that innovation is going to continue to push us forward. We're going to continue to innovate through flavor proliferation in a really smart way in secondary finishing. So no, Bear Fight Honey is not coming out, even though that would be kind of funny. We are going to do it in that really unique way of secondary finishing, really robust, smart flavors that consumers can explore with and have as part of their everyday decision set. The other part is being relevant. And Gabriel talks about Frank, going through the same issues as a bear as a human. Um, it's a part of bringing levity to hard moments of everyone's day and trying to be very in tune with the times and being able to react with that and connect with people where they have some connection to the brand. And I know that's important to you, Gabriel, as well. We want to be we want to be as a part of someone's cultural day, week, month, etc. And that's why we picked our price point. That's why we pick our flavors. But that's also how we've really designed our marketing to be kind of evergreen with the times, as well as really poignant with the times when we need to be.
I mean, I wonder if part of the strength of Bear Fight is that it is small and it can be authentic and not have that, you know, traditional heritage thing, where, we are small enough that we can respond to what's happening in the
Yeah.
zeitgeist,
Yeah.
what's happening and we can identify with the modern drinker, and I think there's a certain attitude that the Bear Fight whiskey drinker is, and I think it's one of integrity and playfulness and keeping up with that idea of, all right, let's go for it. It's kind of that idea of like, oh shit, what happens if I am in the forest?
Yeah.
You know, and a bear comes up here. I think there's something there that allows us as a small company to pivot when we need to. Whereas I think if you're in the corporate in the big one, I think there's a lot of paperwork that you got to go through, right? I mean, there's
Very tough to be flexible when you're rooted in long-term traditional ideals that have created, big marketing and all that sort of stuff. We don't have that baggage almost in a sense, to your point, Gabriel. Um, all right, we only have two more questions I'm going to go through here because apparently we enjoy talking, Gabriel. So, one is, what does someone actually get from investing in Bear Fight? To be clear, you get ownership, you get equity in the business. What does that mean? That is the same equity that we get, that we have. By the same, I mean, a share is a share. And what's that worth is depending on how valuable Bear Fight is at any given moment. But you're purchasing ownership. And that is, it's as black and white as that could be. There's risk to any investment because once again, that ownership is valued as much as the company is valued in any given moment. Um, but it's real, tangible. Our goal is to obviously grow this brand as big as we can and give ourselves a lot of options to make sure that the value of those shares that you are buying are worth a whole ton of money. Because they'd be worth a whole ton of money, frankly, to me and Gabriel as well, and everyone else involved with the business. So, um, it's authentic as I can say that. If we ultimately exit the brand, hopefully there's a lot of money we all get to share in. But we don't focus necessarily on the exit every day. We focus on building an amazing brand that creates a lot of value and figure out where that takes us long term. Um, and so you can see all the details of that. I'm going to read this specifically so I don't screw it up, but you can get all the details on what ownership in Bear Fight is by going to the website, bearfightwhiskey.com/invest, because it spells it all out for you, but it's true equity ownership into the business, no real gimmicks. And obviously too, if you invest, there's some other perks based on the level you invest. But I would tell you, don't invest based on the perks. Invest because you believe in Bear Fight. It's a really awesome brand. And then the last question was, if we're doing this live stream again in 5 years, or doing kind of or the last thing I would say is, if we're doing something like this again in 5 years, Gabriel, um, what does success look like for Bear Fight? I'm going to let you go first here because I
Uh-oh.
law, and I'm curious to hear your point of view on this, frankly.
What does success look like for Bear Fight? Well, I think going back to the narrative and going back to the storytelling, if we can continue telling stories where we are sharing what these bear fights are, then they don't become so much as ads, they become just like moments and moments that will resonate and you know that they're entertaining. It's almost like you're with a couple people that you know, that you're getting to know, that you're familiar with. I mean, we'll see where and how Frank grows over the years. This is, you just said he is a star who was born, and that is true. How is he going to grow with us, and how am I going to grow having to deal with him? um, and it's kind of like, I mean, look, I don't know if he's the comic foil or if I'm his I don't know what it is, but we're creating this thing. And look, at the end of the day, it's meant to be entertaining and not meant to be just thrown in your face as an advertisement. And so that's where I keep on going back to the spirit of what everyone's bear fight is, and what is the actual whiskey about. It's playful, it's fun, it's approachable, it's right, it's just like it's there. Um, and it's not full of itself. It's not like, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but it also does ask questions. It doesn't like hit you over the head with, I don't know. Doesn't hit you over the head. I mean, look, I think it tastes great. I also go back. Look, I'm going to always go back to the narrative of what's your bear fight and how good it tastes, because it actually tastes
Yeah.
really good, and it's smooth. So yeah, that's where I think it's going to be in 5 years. It's just going to grow.
Well,
We're just going to build on what we've got right now. That's where I'm
I think
thinking.
I'm right with you. I'll say it almost simply because it's so approachable to your point, both from a taste profile and a brand perspective. I would like in 5 years for us to be sitting around saying every consumer, legal drinking age consumer of alcohol has at least tried Bear Fight once. That's my goal. I think if people tried it, engage with the brand for 10 seconds, they'll never leave. And if they do, that's okay because we'll have captured so many uh, consumers that would become fans of this brand. Um, I think if you gave this brand 10 seconds and a sip, you would never leave it. And so I believe it from a marketing creative perspective, Gabriel. I believe it from the liquid. Our team has created such amazing whiskeys. Um, And so that's my goal. I want everyone to try it. And I think if 10 seconds in a sip will get everyone. So, all right, Gabriel, any last words here? I think I think it's time to wrap up. I know there's going to be plenty more questions in the chat, but anything from your end?
No, that's it. Look, I think, I think if we can again go back to this idea of let's let's make this a collaboration with our fans and you can be a part of it. And, we're not this whole like corporate behemoth. This is a small startup that we're building together. And I think it could be fun, doing this together. And you get to pipe in. You get to, we'll figure out how to connect with you guys and figure out what it is that you guys want to see. Because I'd like to collaborate. I have always believed that best idea wins. It's not about like what I need to, express at the end of the day. It's about how do we all express this common theme moving forward. So anyway, that's where I'm at with it.
That's amazing. I'm gonna let that marinate. I have nothing else. I'm with Gabriel on this. So look, we love this crowdfund to continue to grow. Thank you guys for your time today. I'm sure we'll have other communications coming out on all these channels on how to invest. But I'll say it, Gabriel and here and I are both here. We're here to answer questions. We're here to be a part of this, and our Bear Fight team is amazing. It's not huge, but it's mighty, and it's here to answer any questions and make this successful. So thank you for your time, guys, and Gabriel, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.